Hey gang, welcome to this week's Profitable Personal Trainer Business Tip. This week, I'm going to teach you something interesting. What if I told you that retaining your clients longer was very similar to teaching people to quit smoking? So we're going to talk about why it is. First off, let's talk about smoking, because as a trainer, I'm sure over the many years, you've had people with habits such as smoking or other kind of borderline addictive habits that were really difficult for them to break. And then let's come back and talk about why that's important for client retention and how you can grow your business if you understand the process by which people could successfully quit smoking. So smoking by nature is a very interesting thing. We know that there's a physiological component. Nicotine is a really dramatic stimulant, even more so harsh than caffeine. It's a lot of stress in the adrenals. It stimulates the central nervous system. It gives people energy. It increases focus. It suppresses appetite. It does all these wonderful things. But more importantly, there's a deeper side to this, that it's a strong-rooted psychological addiction for a very simple reason. When do people smoke? Usually when they need a break from stress, usually when they need to take a break from work, usually when they need to escape life. The point is that the act of smoking for those that do smoke is usually a positive reinforcement or a positive behavior, because it allows them to interject a little bit of peace, harmony, or something within their control in an otherwise difficult situation or stressful life. So over weeks, months, and years, this positive reinforcement of this behavior, when I go out and have a cigarette, I typically feel better, or I have a moment of peace, becomes a very difficult psychological addiction to break. So as a trainer, if you're ever trying to figure out how to get people to stop smoking, I would say it's the same thing that we need to understand to improve people's compliance with nutrition, with exercise, and ultimately the thing that will allow them to stay within your four walls longer using your services. Okay, so let's go back to smoking, for instance. How do we help somebody stop smoking once and for all? Well, the very first thing that we have to understand is that we have to turn what is presently something that they enjoy, or something that they would rather avoid or remove other things to do, into something that becomes a negative experience for them. Okay, so one of my favorite activities for a smoker was to find out how many cigarettes they had in a day, and then set a goal and plan with them that no matter what, they had to smoke that many cigarettes in a day. So that's all fine and wonderful and doesn't seem like a big deal until that one day that they're super busy and then realize that they basically have to chain smoke 10 or 15 cigarettes before they go to bed. The person that commits to that, sees it through, will probably be so sick, ill, and feel terrible that suddenly we've done the first important thing to breaking that psychological habit. We turned what was a positive behavior into a negative behavior. If you follow Anthony Robbins at all, he talks about this a great deal in some of his books, that we need to change state, or we need to create a pattern, interrupt those behaviors that people are used to. So when it comes to retention, it's kind of the same thing. Okay, in that we need to take people's presumption or perception of exercise and nutrition and diet being such a negative thing that is a punishment, thing that requires sacrifice, thing that requires self-control, extended commitment, willpower, all of these things that are hard, difficult, and most of us would rather not deal with because it's just too stressful to think that we might fail, and we need to somehow turn that into a positive behavior, okay? Which means that we start with baby steps. Why sometimes you have clients that can jump in the pool and do everything you want right from day one, and they're like miracles. And as coaches, we all relish it. And I think of it to the times that we all enjoy training athletes, because athletes are so disciplined and will pretty much stand on their head 3 hours a day if that's what you tell them to do. But most of us, for instance, we need to have those small things that allow us to have those basic affirmations, that positivity that gives us that reinforcement as to why we feel better about ourselves, that set ourselves up for bigger and bigger success. Okay, January being a prime example. Here we are as I'm filming this in mid-January. Most New Year's resolutions are failing. Over 9 out of 10 will fail. And why? Because people set these unrealistic expectations and were so inspired that they were willing to deal with that self-imposed punishment until they didn't meet the affirmation or achieve the success that they wanted in the short term, and then they started to lose that willpower and lose that inspiration because that affirmation wasn't there. So quitting smoking, retaining your clients, very similar in the process, in that we need to interject a pattern interrupt. We need to ensure that people are using diets or training methods that aren't things that they previously avoided because they've seen them as a punishment. We really do need to focus on fun. You know, we've joked in our facility for a long time that we try to give people 65% of what they want and only 35% of what they need, so that they can have more fun doing it and build up that affirmation as to why they want to keep doing it. This is how we build habits. So if you're looking to increase retention with your clients, stop thinking about becoming a better trainer. Stop learning new techniques for training, and acknowledge the basics of human behavior, and that it comes down to positive affirmation and giving people those pattern interrupts of turning something that was negative into a positive with continual reinforcement. So I can't stress enough that I think trainers don't follow up enough with their clients outside of appointments. They don't do assessments enough to demonstrate results and to allow people to give themselves that pat on the back of why they're doing, and celebrating successes, acknowledging through social media, giving them high fives, sending them things in the mail to acknowledge the progress that they've made. The point is surround your clients with more positivity, and the training stuff will come. Hopefully that's useful. That's this week's Profitable Personal Trainer tip.